Taking over-the-counter or prescription drugs unnecessarily is a drag, whereas feeling great like you used to is the way it ought to be. Learn how to feel, function, and perform to your full health potential. Tune in to the Dr. Bob Martin Show, Sunday morning at 10 on Talk 1470 WNN.
911.
The roof is completely caved in on us.
These people were ordered to evacuate during Hurricane Ivan, but didn't.
I'm in a wheelchair and water's coming in. Can't respond right now because of the condition of the hurricane.
Evacuation orders are a serious matter. It means local officials think your life could be in danger. You need to listen to them. This hurricane season, get a plan. Go to floridadisaster.org and get your plan today.
This message is brought to you by the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the Florida Association of Broadcasters, and this radio station.
Talk here, talk there. Talk 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, the Health and Wealth Radio Network. WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Congratulations on your engagement, and welcome to Wedding Talk with your host, Steve-O. Wedding Talk is a show where we give you peace of mind through your chaotic excitement of the wedding, where we have professional vendors weekly to discuss their services, experiences, and to answer any questions you may have to help create your dream wedding. To be part of our show, call in at 888-565-1470. Now let's go to the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wedding Talk. I am your guest host today, Chastity, from My Wedding, My Style. You probably saw me a couple of weeks ago on Steve-O's show. Everyone could take the time and wish him a happy birthday. It's actually his birthday, so he's spending family time. And I will be here today with Harley. Harley is my planner. She is the planner from My Wedding, My Style. And she's also known with Weddings and Events Mall, which is a fabulous name. Love the name. When you think of a mall, you think of a place where you go to get the things that you need. And that's exactly what Harley is. She's that person that gets you everything you need for your big day. How are you, Harley? And thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. And hello to everybody out there. I should say congratulations on your engagement if you just got engaged. And I'm looking forward to the rest of the show.
There's a couple of things. Actually, brides have already reached out to me and asked me some questions. They're thinking about saving money. And they're wondering how you feel about when they're planning their wedding. Are they better off going to the one-stop shop? And why? And as a planner, how do you feel when they come to you? Would you rather have them come and get everything in one place? And how does that benefit them financially?
Well, I always tell my brides when they call me, the first thing you want to do is create a budget and break it down. By breaking down your budget, and not you breaking it down, but having it professionally broke down. Because what will happen is you'll say, okay, well, I don't want to spend no more than X amount of money for this or for that. And unless you know the business, you know how much things cost, what will happen is you may allot a certain amount of money, maybe too much to something or too little to something else. So what I do is I break it down for you, find out how much you should spend for, let's just say, the venue. Oftentimes, you know how many brides I get that say, well, I'm going to just book the venue and then the rest of the money, get everything else, which is one of the
I can imagine.
That's the worst thing you want to do, because if you do that, then you nine times out of 10, you're going to go over budget. You want to know how much you should spend on the venue before you actually start looking for a venue and other different vendors. By coming to us, we have an array of people. One of the major differences between us and other one-stop shop is we don't just have one person. We have different people, because every bride is different. They have a different personality. They have different taste. So you may love one of our DJs over the other, but at least you have the option. Even with us, there's 4 of us. You know, some people may want to go to you for the planning versus me for the planning, or one of the other 2, because there's 4 of us, and each one of us has something different to offer. So that's one of the major differences between us and other one-stop shop. And by doing that, you get to save, because our vendors offer our brides special prices.
Now, that was something, now that you're saying about the different personalities, I don't think people really fully understand that, and that's something that you brought up that's really, really good. When a lot of times when brides are looking, you might be looking financially. You know what you want to spend and what you can spend, and you might set your sights on that. this is what I can spend for a DJ. Now I have to find a DJ within that price. How does that work? What if you wind up with someone and you just don't match, you don't mesh? So like you said, the personality is a big thing while it's financial. Now I'm going to ask you a question because I've had people call me in the past and they'll say, I have 100 guests and my budget is $5,000. What do you think is a good budget? Let's just say we have 100 guests. What do you think is realistic for a bride to say, okay, I have 100 guests. I want to stay in a comfortable budget, but I don't want to make my day cheesy. It's my day. There are no do-overs. So what do you think is comfortable for a budget? And I'm going to give you a total of like 100 people.
Well, 100 people is actually your average amount, so that's definitely a good number. It all depends on the bride.
Okay.
Depends on her taste, what she wants, and also how much help she can get. For example, if she has a lot of people willing to chip in for a lot of DIYs, I'm sorry. If, things like that, depending on the venue, depending on, what she's looking for. Can $5,000 be reasonable for 100 people? Depends on what you want to feed them.
We're going to be doing cheeseburgers and hot dogs.
Exactly. So it all depends. I do get a lot of people who say, yes, I have 100 people, and I do get oftentimes $5,000. And I say, well, what do you want that to include? Because oftentimes they say, well, no, my family members are cooking. The venue and the food does take up a lot of the budget. So if you have a lot of people willing to cook and it's going to feed everybody, then is $5,000 reasonable? I would say yes.
Now, what's that downside? Because you just said, okay, my family members are cooking. So what's the downside of that? Because I thought of, okay, you have several people, you've put them together, and they say, I'm bringing this, I'm bringing that. And what happens when the kids get sick or something happens and they say, oh, it's just my cousin's wedding, and they don't come through?
Exactly.
Have you seen that in the past where people depend on their family members and their day is disastrous? And then how does that fall in your category? Because it's something you have to deal with right then and there on the spot.
Well, I've heard of it. I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard of those type of disasters. Does it happen in my case? Not too often, because I stay on top of people. Whenever they say, cousin this person or auntie that person is doing this, I tend to stay on top of, hey, what's going on? Did you get everything you need? I often don't like to work with a lot of brides who say family members are chipping in, mainly because of that. But I do try to stay on top of that. I asked the bride, do you want to have a contingency backup, money set aside, so that I can in turn, of course, call my caterer and say, hey, we need this item or that item because that person was not able to make it.
Now, getting into budget-friendly venues. We know that the way social media is, we have Pinterest, we have Instagram, we have a lot of places where you're looking, you're seeing what you like, you're looking at pictures and you're saying, I can do this. There are brides out there that are saying, I can do this, I can make this, I can follow these easy steps and make this happen. So if they decide that they want to DIY, and let's just say they're looking for that venue that's inexpensive, and there are a lot of places, there are state places and parks and that you can make beautiful events at. What happens with, are there plan B? Does everyone have plan Bs? Because we do live in South Florida, and we know what the weather's been like the last couple of months. So what happens in that case when they're looking for that inexpensive venue? Do you see where there are venues that actually do have a plan B that can fall into what they need? Or are they going into these places and there is no plan B, and how is it affecting their day?
Well, actually, it's just funny because we actually just had 2 weddings the past couple of weeks that everything was supposed to be outdoors. These weddings were being planned as of last year. And with all the rain, we just had to come up with a backup. And if you remember, both of the brides loved their backup even more so than they did their original plan. Having a planner, that's one of the things that, and in our case, since we do the planning and the design, we were able to not only switch everything and we were able to make everything beautiful for them. When they walked in, they loved it.
So it took over. It wasn't that space. And that's why I need people to understand. Sometimes we don't understand the importance. It's really great with DIYing things and putting things together. I just really, because we love our DIY brides. It's less work. And it's personalized. It's something that's you. You can say, I made that. And you can keep that, and that's a memory for you. So we do love our DIY brides. But there's something that you said that's very important. Sometimes when you DIY, you think, I DIY'd, it's all me. I don't really need anything. And you're not seeing the investment behind it. You're not seeing the insurance that you're getting on your day. So you said those things came through, it rains, and you made it happen for them. That took time, that took effort. Do you feel that if you weren't there, that was something that those brides could have accomplished on that day? And how would that have affected them?
Wow. Honestly, I think they would have been a lot more stressed because now it's raining. Now you have to sit there and think, what can I do? And try to think and then say, okay, well, would they have eventually accomplished it? Maybe. Let's be honest. Maybe they would have, enough heads put together, they would have come up with it. However, on the day of your wedding, you want to really sit there and stress. Exactly.
Do you really want to deal with that?
And one of the things we pride on, and you hear it often, be a guest at your own wedding. And that's what we want our brides to, is be a guest at their own wedding. And that's something I'd already planned for. I already had in the back of my mind, this is what we're going to do. And I ran it by them and said, but, every bride says, no, my wedding day is going to be perfect. It's going to be nice and sunny. And it's not going to rain.
Positive
which
energies.
is what we want, exactly. But realistically speaking, and I know one of them, she actually said that up until the moment that she walked in to her wedding, she was actually concerned that if the backup plan was going to really give her what she wanted, that look and feel that she really wanted, because think of it, you wanted everything outdoors, and now you're having to bring everything inside, all in the same room. She was really afraid of that, and when she said she walked in and saw what we did, she loved it. She really loved it. So that was...
And it's worth it. It's all worth it to you. And it was worth it to her, because now you became an asset to her. You became an investment to her. You made her day happen, even though Mother Nature had another plan. Now, I know this, but I know a lot of our audience doesn't know this. How long have you been in the industry? How long have you been planning?
Wow. At this point, about 11 years now, total. I actually started planning events, not necessarily weddings, but events. That was prior to the 11 years ago when I was in the Navy.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I actually used to plan at a command level. I mean, everybody's familiar with USO. Well, at a command level, it's actually called MWR. And we used to plan events for the troops on the boat. And I was actually one of the spearheaded, people who used to spearhead a lot of the events and the activities. And whenever the ship would, pull into port, some kind of event. And I used to be one of the ones in charge of that. So that's actually what got me interested in event planning to begin with. And then when I got out the Navy and was like, hey, I could do this, got into weddings. And that was about...
Which to me is interesting, because when I think of being in the military, there's a lot of discipline that comes behind that. And you have that. I see that in you. You have that discipline. We always joke. We play around. You're the yin to my yang, and I'm the yin to your yang. We complement each other. You're structured, and everything is a specific way, and you put everything together. Me, I'm into design. I'm the artist. So sometimes I tend to flow, and I see butterflies and I see rainbows, and I follow the pretty colors, to where Harley's like, here's reality. Come on, let's go. and that's good. That's good, because that's why she's great at what she does. So with that being said, my next thing to you is, when it comes to the timeline, I know a lot of people plan their own events, even quinces, sweet 16s, bar mitzvahs, parties, things for their children. They plan it themselves, and sometimes we micromanage. Human nature, some of us just have the tendency to micromanage. And I feel that those people, more than anything, need a planner, because you can't keep track of everything. You can't. You're already micromanaging. That means you micromanage your career, your life. Everything is in an order. So they don't have the experience you have, not to forget specific things. How do you keep yourself organized? How are you able to walk into that event and say, okay, this has to be done and this is how it has to be done? How do you do that?
Well, at this point, it's just kind of muscle memory.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard of muscle memory. You know what needs to happen, and just kind of you get it done. I do my timeline, and when I do my timeline, I often do leave realistic times on there. Sometimes I put extra time for certain things just to kind of give us that little cushion in case we're running late with this or running late with that. Spur of the moment, I may have to switch things around. And
because something's always going to happen.
Always.
And that's something that
Always.
people need to know. You need to know and understand. It's like anything in our life. Something is always going to happen. And that's where you come in play. And when that happens, you find
If
your
you
way.
have a bride that says, I had a perfect day, that just simply means she had a good planner.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yes,
it really is. It is. Because I have noticed when people plan themselves, if you look at blogs, there's a lot of blogs, the Not Wedding Wire, they all have really good blogs where you can go on, and as a bride, you can talk about the experiences you've had or leading up to the planning. And I like to read them and read what people go through. And I see that. I see where people know every single detail that happened in their wedding. And when you look back and read the story, there wasn't a planner there. You were not there. So my thing is, how do you let people know your worth? When you sit down with someone and you tell them, this is what I do for you, I always tell them, we're an asset, we're not an expense. So you already told us the amount of years that you've had in the experience. You told us how you became a planner. Now, with that being said, as you move forward with this new generation and the way things change, how do you let them see that you're an asset? It's very hard. I find a lot of planners tell me it's really difficult to explain to someone your worth without making them feel like you're selling them something, letting them actually understand your worth. So when you're part of a wedding, I actually heard something. I heard a bride say this about you in a video. And she looked back and said, not only did you make my dream come true, but you did it within my budget. You were conscious of my budget. How do you do that without breaking yourself financially? Because there's a lot of work that goes behind it.
Well, like I said, from the very beginning, breaking down the budget and staying within that budget is, I've actually had brides, they give me a number, the amount of guests, because that's very important. How many people is going to really determine your budget. They give me a number. I actually had a bride say, I was talking to a planner and I felt offended by her. And I said, well, why? She said, because when I gave her my budget, she looked at me like, so I said, well, what is your budget? And she gave me, and yes, it was very low.
Okay.
So, but what I've learned to do, and again, it comes with experience, is I say, okay, well, let's break down your budget. I broke it down and I said, okay, this percentage should go to this. When she saw it, broke it down for herself, and she saw, okay, well, to feed everybody, it's $500. She herself said, oh, that's low.
You can't even
I can feed everybody. Exactly.
Let's
she
be
said it
honest.
herself. I can feed everybody with that amount of money. That's when I smiled. And I said to myself, she said that. I didn't have to. Oftentimes doing that, and again, all that comes with experience. That is what, from the very beginning, you get a clear understanding. This is what needs to get done. This is how much you have to do it. I've had the bride where they say, well, can you do that for me? Again, because I've been doing this long enough, I already know the prices of my vendors. I already know. I have an idea. So I'll say, well, if you add maybe a little bit more, you know.
And you do the bridal codicil where people can actually come to you and say, okay, this is where I am. This is where I need to be. Let's talk. And you, depending on what they need, how much they need, you actually sit down with them and there's a fee because her time is her time. She's giving you her time. But you sit down and you talk to the bride and you get to see where they are and where they're stuck. And I've noticed that when brides come to you and they have that time with you, they feel relieved and it makes them realize. And because of that, it's where it's a la carte, where they can pick, these are the services that I need from you. And I've noticed that you've done that a lot with brides, and it's helped them. It's helped them to get to where they need to be without going full force into a planner and having everything that they need to make their day happen. Like that day of is important. You don't just do day of. You do the 30 days prior. And what do you do when you do those 30 days?
Well, our services are basically full planning, which means you don't have anything. We take you from point A to point Z.
Okay.
Partial planning, which means you kind of have your vendors picked out. You haven't booked anybody. You just have an idea of who you want. And then we kind of step in and help you tweak. And then we have day of. Day of really for us is called month of because we start working on your wedding a month before.
And you need to. You can't just show up at someone's wedding and not know
who they are, what they want. 30 days before, what basically happens is I have a in-depth conversation with you, get to know you as a person, what you want. With all of course, except for full planning, because full planning was there from the beginning. But with partial and with day of or really month of, what I like to do is I like to go over all your contract. I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. However, I do like to go over everything after I've spoken to you because you know how many times the bride will sit there with a vendor. And the vendor, of course, will sit there and show them and paint this beautiful picture, have their best and their brightest out. The bride comes out, loves everything, thinks that's what she's getting, but when it comes down to paper, and
this is what you paid for.
Exactly.
So you didn't pay for this.
And then the bride, she's so excited. She just signs on the dotted line, doesn't really read exactly what she's getting. So when I come in, after I've sat down with her, and she says, oh, yeah, I'm getting, filet mignon. Okay? And I'm looking at the contract, and it says chicken.
I love the way you say it. Because it is. It's chicken.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes.
So I tell her, okay, well, you do realize you're getting chicken. But
she tasted the filet mignon.
She tasted it, and that was a tasting, So I'll sit down with her, and after I've had the in-depth discussion with her, find out exactly what she wants, look over, make sure that what she wants and what her contracts say is exactly what she's getting. If there's any discrepancy, if there is a booked vendor, then I'll try to reach out to the vendor and say, hey, oftentimes vendor to vendor, they tend to work, tweak, do whatever they can. They say, well, it may not be filet mignon, but we'll put filet mignon sauce over it or something, whatever we can work out. If they just know we just can't, then I'll go back to the bride and say, look, this was going on, let her handle it. But for the most part, I am able to work things out. And that's, again, you asked me earlier as far as one-stop shop. That's the one good thing about using our vendors is that I am able to go back and, work things out with our vendors and get things done for her. And
which that's something that even Steve, we always discuss that. We're very open on our contracts. We'll tell you, this is what you're getting for this price. All of us. This is what you're getting. Now, this is what we offer. We offer these things, and this is what these things will cost you. But this is what you're getting in your contract. And I'm happy you said that because you're right. People will walk into a place and see everything and say, I love this, yes, and sign. And they're paying $1,000, and they think they're getting all of this. And then when it gets to their day, they're like, well, where's this? But I thought that, no. See, all those things cost X amount of dollars, and this is what you were paying for. So I know that all of our vendors, we stay within, we say, this is what you get. And then here's what we offer also. So when it comes to that, have you ever found yourself in a position where, look, it's unrealistic. It's unrealistic. What they want to pay, what their budget is, their amount of guests. And how do you deal with that? Do you tell them to bring their guest count down? How do you deal with it?
Well, like I said, with with breaking down their budget, they tend to realize it. After I break it down, I tell them, okay, for example, this is how much according to your budget you have to spend for everything. This is how much I know I can get it to you for. And of course, I try to, match them up with the vendors within our network that I know can meet, personality, prices, what they want. Because everybody has a different style. Everybody has a different, what they want.
And remember that when you're thinking about your budget, remember that your personality and your style, it means a lot. You don't just want to go for the inexpensive vendor. You want to make sure that it's someone that you mesh with because that is your day. You want to have a relationship with that person. So that's a great thing right there. That personality means a lot. So with that being said, on the personality, we don't always all get along. We don't.
So women.
I know. So, and you could discuss how we work through that. See, because I know the answers to these questions because Harley and I work together. But it's good for our viewers out there to know so that they understand how the process is and how it works. And how do we deal with it when we just don't mesh with someone? But we know because of all the different personalities, they might get along with someone else. Discuss how you handle that situation.
Well, like I said, there's 4 of us. So each one of us has different personalities to we often say she's cupcake, I'm liver.
I am. I'm the cupcake. I'm the one that makes you feel all sweet inside and everything's bubbly and I'm happy all the time. That's just me.
And I'm liver. Acquired taste. It's an acquired taste, but I'm good for you. I'm the one who's gonna make it happen. I'm the one who, even though is a harsh reality to say, no, we can't do this or we can't do this. I'm the one who, at the end of the day, is going to make that happen for you. So it acquired taste, but good for you. So that's why I'm liver. And then we have our other two great women, different personalities within them. Vashi, she's very nice. She's almost more like somewhere in between us.
She's in between us.
Exactly, somewhere in between us. And then Lisette, which is almost a little bit more on my side.
Yeah, a little more on the liver side. But then at the same, she can. I'm gonna say that Lizette is not the liver. Lizette is the broccoli.
There you go. Yeah.
Some people, a lot of people will feel into Lizette. She has that personality, but like you, she is very. This is it. This is the point. And like you said, we're able to do that. We're able to give all that. That's something that Steve and I talked about all the time. He has all his DJs, and he does the same thing. This is who you mesh with. This is the personality. You have to do that. Not everyone likes the cupcake. It's true. A lot of you can sit there and say, I don't eat sweets. I don't do sweets. And that's how personality is. A lot of people will meet me and they don't know how intelligent I am, and they don't know my background, because I am so happy all the time that I'm that person that someone might look at me and be like, she is too bubbly for me. She makes me sick. That's just the reality of it. It happens. And we found it where it's happened. We'll sit down and talk to someone, and I'll give Harley a look and she'll give me a look. And that's us saying we're done. We're going to pass it on to the other person. With that being said, Harley, your phone number, if someone needs to speak to you after the show or reach you, is?
954-336-2617. Again, that's 954-336-2617.
So now you can reach Harley through us, which is Weddings and Events Mall. That's the actual base of the company. And then My Wedding, My Style is the styling aspect of it. So you can also reach her through there. And then you have Steve. You can always give Steve a call if you want to get to know Harley and see what she can do for you. You can go ahead and do so. And I really enjoyed having this conversation because, like I said, I know you. And even though I know you and I know what you do, it's not, other people don't know. Other people don't understand. And sometimes people look at planning and they're like, planning is, I don't need it. It's not something I need, or it's going to take away from my budget. And we want people to understand that that's not true. That's not what we're doing.
We save people money.
You do. You save people money. And that's just the reality of it. Well, guys, I want to thank everyone. I know that I had some big shoes to fill because, Steve, it's hard to be him. He's the lovable one. So am I. And with that being said, don't forget to go into the comments and say happy birthday to Steve and let him know that we love him and we miss him. And you'll be seeing him next Monday. Thank you. Thank you, Harley. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. It was fun doing this with you.
Yes,
the conversation back and forth and getting to know. Because sometimes we even underestimate each other a little. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Thank you all for tuning in to Wedding Talk. I hope you found this useful and made it easier for you in your big day. Please tag, like, share this video, and most importantly, tune in next week. But for now, enjoy your honeymoon and talk to you next time.